Okay, hi Chem20. Today I'm going to show you how to make a solution. So please reference your textbook page 227, a standard solution from a solid. This is one of these skills that you need to develop quite well. It's a very testable and very convenient skill to know. We're going to make a copper sulfate solution. So here's my copper sulfate solution. It's a nice blue crystal. So it's ionic, so we're going to be dissociating it. What are you going to need? Well, today we're going to use a very expensive, highly calibrated volumetric flask. And you can see this line right here. This is where the 100 ml mark is. So all of the volumetric flasks, the marks will be at different heights because they've been specially etched for an exact amount of 100 mils. So they're very nice volumetric flasks. This is the volumetric flask stopper, which we'll put on at the end. You're going to need a beaker, right? So you're making 100 mils of solution, so you don't need a big beaker, just a little beaker. A glass stirring rod, a funnel, and yeah, let me just show you how to do it. So first of all, what you need to remember is that we're going to make a specific molarity for our solution. So you're going to have to do a calculation of mass. So you've got the concentration, you want 100 mils, so you figure out what mass of copper sulfate pentahydrate do we need for this solution. So I'm not going to give that away, so I'll just pretend it's 2 grams. So here's my scale. Maybe it's not plugged in. I'm going to mass 2 grams. So you're going to use a metal scupula, and you're just going to mass 2 grams, or whatever your calculation is. It's not 2 grams, so figure that one out. And let's pretend that you got 1.99. That's pretty close. That'd probably be okay. But if you get a little bit too much, please just take it out and put it into the waste weigh boat that's sitting next to the scale. Okay, so I've got a nice mass. Before you walk away from the scale, make sure you put your scupula on the paper towel that's sitting by the scale so another class member can use that. And absolutely put the lid on your solute, on your reagent bottle. Otherwise, it will get in there and it will, you know, just make sure you put the lid on. Okay, so here's my solute. So I'm going to dissolve this in less than 100 mils of water. So I would say about half. So I'm going to put this into the beaker and try and dissolve it in about 50 mils of water. Okay, so you want to knock out the weigh boat, make sure everything's clean. If you're satisfied that you've got everything, that's great. If not, you can take a distilled water bottle and just rinse out your weigh boat. So I want my solution to be as accurate as possible. So I'm going to rinse out my weigh boat to get all of those 2 grams. And then I'm going to just put some water in here, less than 100 mils, about 50. And I'm going to stir and dissociate the ionic compound with the solvent of water. So you just stir until all the crystals are gone. So I think that looks good. Okay. And then I'm going to transfer that into the volumetric flask. So what you're going to use is just a funnel. Looks just like your kitchen funnel. You're going to put it in your volumetric flask. And you're going to guide the solution into the flask. So you use your stirring rod as a guide, and you stir down the stirring rod because you don't want any spillage. Okay? All right. Now, if you look at my stirring rod and look inside the beaker, you can see we have a lot of solute left. We've got a lot of particles that we've missed. And we want to get every last particle into our highly calibrated solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse the stirring rod, and I'm going to rinse the beaker, and and I'm going to add that to the solution. Okay, and I'm going to do this a couple times until I feel satisfied that I've got every last particle of the copper sulfate. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. Maybe I'll give it one more go and go round the top and circle. You're trying to get any missed particles and back. Okay, you can see where the line here is on the flask. You've got to be careful not to go over top of that line while you're rinsing. Don't get carried away. So I'm rinsing my stirring rod now. So if you're done with your stirring rod, don't just put it on the bench because you don't want to pick contaminants off the bench and you don't want to contaminate the bench with your stirring rod. So please place it over the sink. And I'm just going to rinse out my funnel. And then once I'm satisfied that my funnel, my beaker, and my stirring rod are clean, I'm just going to bring the volume up to 100 where that line is. Now remember, the water will make a meniscus of a U, and you want to be at the bottom of that meniscus. So the edges of that U should be above the meniscus. And when you get to the very end, you want to be exact. So you might choose to use a pipette. So you get a small beaker, fill it with water, and you can use an eyedropper or a small pipette and bring it up to the line. But let me just see how I go here. Ah, absolutely beautiful. All right, so you can see that I'm looking pretty good here. Just the bottom of the U is right on that line. And so my solution looks good. So I'm going to stopper it and invert it 3 times. So hold it with your thumb. 1, 2, and 3. And now you have made exactly 100 mils of a 0.05 copper sulfate pentahydrate solution. All right? Good job.